everyone, welcome to Findem Live. We'll give you a few minutes to settle in and then get started with our program. Feel free to pop into the chat where you're calling in from. Nova Scotia, welcome, Jean. Palm Springs, nice to see you, Lauren. I'm here in Northern California. Laura, hi, Laura. Great. Well, I see we've got a number of people in and I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to pause our music and go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to Findem Live. We're here to share with you how Findem helps companies better find, nurture, and retain talent. If this is your first time learning about Findem, our Talent Data Cloud is the only talent acquisition and management solution powered by AI and 3D data. We help you transform the way you attract and retain talent by automating that busy work so you can focus on people. My name is Karen Henke, and I'm editor of the Shortlist here at Findem, as well as host of our monthly Findem Live series. So thank you all for joining us today. It's great to see so many folks from so many places, and want to welcome you and encourage you to ask questions in the chat, share emojis, react in ways. We wanted this to be an open and interactive session. I am joined today and so excited to have Brett Coyne and Matt Kavala from Findem here to talk about inbound. So welcome, Brett and Matt.
Hey, Karen. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Hello. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to learn a little bit more about Findem.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, our topic today is that flood of inbound and what to do about it. We'd love to know, what your biggest challenges are. So if you want to just pop those into the chat, we can kind of start that conversation off, right? So feel free, you can vent here. You can share the pain that you're experiencing with that inbound. This is all among friends. And we'd love to be able to help you with that problem. So I see an ARG. Not sure if that's a location or a comment on inbound, but we'll keep going. At a high level, Findem's Talent Data Cloud helps you consolidate your top of funnel activities. We bring together sourcing, CRM, and analytics into a single solution, and that goes across all your hiring channels. So it's kind of a different approach to what you may have been doing in the past. To start, Argentina, awesome. Thank you, Fernando. So let's start off with a quick poll question about how much has your ATS resume database grown over the past 12 months? So Austin, would you like to put that poll up and we'll give folks a couple of minutes to respond? And I know all of the conversations really almost over the past year that I've been having with talent leaders, they've talked to me about just this flood, this volume of inbound coming in that is just almost unmanageable. So curious to see where those ATS databases are growing. All right. Do we have results? Oh, there we go. Ooh, half of our folks aren't sure or don't know. And we see some pretty big growth. 50% are seeing, 10% are seeing a 50% growth, and 30% of you have seen almost a doubling of your database. So that's pretty significant. Brett, what does this, when you see these numbers, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. In my last role, leading worldwide talent acquisition at Okta, we were seeing that my last 6 to 12 months. Our inbound application volume went up considerably. When I talk to most of our Findem customers, they're seeing the same thing. It's been pretty significant. It tends to be market driven, right? We tend to be right now in what you might describe as a undersupply of jobs and an oversupply of really good people. So we're seeing a lot of customers who are talking about, in some cases, their resume database is growing over the past 18 to 24 months. I've heard tens of thousands, and some of the bigger customers, hundreds of thousands. Pretty incredible.
Wow. And what does that mean? So maybe set up for us, today we're going to be talking about this inbound, how we take that inbound and turn it into talent for the future. Because, we live in California. We know what it's like in the wintertime when it rains. We want all that precious rain to stay around till summer when it dries out. So I imagine talent leaders are thinking that today, like, well, it may be lots of folks today, but how do we prepare for the future given that flood?
Yeah, I think that's right, Karen. That's a great analogy. And so, yeah, I'll spend a few minutes talking about this, and then we're going to show you the power of Findem. Matt is going to demonstrate what we're doing for our customers to help with this problem, which is one of the reasons I joined, because it was certainly a problem that I saw in my career, and lack of technology to really help with it. So I just wanted to say, thank you for joining, everyone. We are broadcasting live. This is really fun. I'm at our global headquarters in Redwood City. And I think this is a topic that whether you're a recruiter, sourcer, TA leader, and let's not forget the candidates, right? The candidates, everyone that I talk to struggles with this to some extent, not only on the agency side, the in-house corporate side, but it's a problem for candidates too. And I'm going to talk about why. So just spend a few minutes. I'm going to start talking a little bit about what's going on in the industry, right? We talked a little about this oversupply. Unfortunately, the past 18 months or so, we've been in a little bit of what we would call a down cycle. You read the news every day, and you see, more and more companies are cost cutting. They're pulling back on their workforce. A lot of times what I've seen is there's really qualified, talented people who are just getting caught up in company actions. And, it's unfortunate. And then those folks turn around and they say, hey, look, I need to go out there and try to find something. And so we're seeing more people than ever apply to jobs. And, we mentioned the size of databases. Some of the leaders I've talked to, if they would have posted a job 2 years ago, they might have received 25 or 50 applicants. And as a recruiter, you're scrambling. Sometimes you really want that great person to apply because your pipeline isn't full. And, you have a hiring manager meeting. Now, sometimes we're seeing 500 to 1,000 applications. We posted a role here at Findem a few months ago, and in about 4 days had 400 applicants. So I saw it myself, and it was pretty incredible. And so when I think about that, there are benefits to that, right? And there's actually downsides to that. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit before we show the product, just to get everybody, on the same page. And when I think about inbound applications, it tends to be a pretty significant source of hire for most companies. One of the exercises we go through with most of our clients is we look at their source of hire data and what's that pie chart. And while inbound applicants maybe 2 years ago was 15, 20%, some customers are telling us that they're hiring 40, 50% of their current hires are coming from inbound. Why? Really qualified, great people happen to be on the market and they're applying to jobs. So that inbound channel, the quality that you can find that maybe 2 years ago in a really tight job market, a lot less people were applying, you didn't really have as much to work with. It's become a really fruitful channel. The question is, how do you really maximize and optimize that channel? And in the past, as a longtime practitioner, I never really saw any companies do it well because there wasn't what I would consider great technology to help with that at the time. And so I'm going to talk about 3 stakeholders. I'm going to talk about recruiters and sourcers. I'm going to talk about the candidates, and I'm going to talk about TA leaders. Okay, because all 3 are impacted by the current state. And so as a recruiter, in today's world, what we hear is we have hundreds or thousands of applicants. Oftentimes within the ATS, the only way to review these applicants is to go through them one by one. I've personally done that. It's insanely painful, right? The search functionality in the ATS often isn't good to help you surface the highly qualified people quickly. And then what tends to happen as a recruiter, and I've done this, like you start working some applicants or you start working candidates you've sourced, however you're getting your pipeline, you start moving them forward in the process. The hiring manager is excited. what happens? You get 4 or 5 high quality candidates, you focus on moving them through the interview process, trying to create a great experience, get the role filled. While you're doing that, a lot more people are applying to that role. And during that window, you might get 50, 100, 200 more candidates, but your attention is elsewhere. You're working on other roles, you're joining meetings. There might be really great candidates that applied, but the timing was off. And so they get lost in the shuffle. You close the rec out, they go into your ATS. You may never see them again. What a miss, right? So the benefit is you're getting more qualified people. The downside is it's hard to get to everybody, right, without the right technology. So let's talk about candidates, right? When I thought I was a recruiter, I thought the candidate was my customer. My job is to get in touch with them, create a great experience, get them to my hiring manager. The candidates are frustrated. For many candidates, they never hear back, right? Hey, I apply to the job, it goes into the abyss, right? What happens? It creates a lot of frustration for the candidate. They talk and your brand takes a hit, right? So the recruiter may not see a great candidate who applied late to the job, and maybe that person could be a fit for another role. More importantly, maybe that person could be a fit for a future role. Last but not least, the way we get a lot of candidates as recruiters is through the inbound application process. What if those inbound applicants are an alumni of your company? Right? They're an internal employee who's looking to make a mobility move. What if they're a contractor who's currently working for the company that wants to go full time, or they're a referral submitted by the employee? That's a really big disappointment for those candidates because they've already built a relationship with your company at one point in the past. Okay, so thinking about that, and then last but not least, let's talk about TA leaders. Right, my sweet spot here, the past 8 years of my career before coming to Findem, as a TA leader, we think about providing a strategy for our team that often includes spending time, energy, or dollars building a brand strategy that often includes advertising your jobs on various platforms through paid media and marketing. You want to get an ROI on that investment, decide whether or not you should continue to invest in those channels in the future, right? We're seeing an oversupply organically today, so maybe you're not as investing as much, but in times where you're not getting the oversupply, you're spending the money to drive more traffic. As you see, or I would see my inbound traffic increase, I really wanted to know that my team had the ability to take advantage of all those candidates. And I can't say that we were confident in the past that we were able to do that. In addition, if you're spending money today to drive traffic, and as you all wrote in the poll, or you gave us information in the poll, and what we're hearing from customers is that your ATS database is growing significantly, especially now with a lot of qualified candidates. How do you future-proof your budget and your team in the future to make sure that they can go in and actually rematch candidates in that ATS that is growing with great qualified people who've shown an interest in your brand to future roles? I always wanted to be able to do that confidently and give my team that ability, but I don't think we ever really did that. I see some of them are on this call, so good to see you again. But the challenge as a leader is your company takes up hiring again in the future, and maybe there's an undersupply of talent with more jobs open. What a shame it would be if I had to go back and spend a lot more money on advertising or what tends to be very expensive outbound sourcing tools to get more candidates that I might already have in my database because I can't find the people who I have. So there's a short and long-term problem to this that affects recruiters, sourcers, candidates, and talent acquisition leaders. And so what we're going to do now is shift it over to Matt, our sales engineer, to show everybody how, through Findem's platform, we put a lot of emphasis helping our customers on inbound application management, both short and long. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt.
Wonderful. Thanks, Brett. Go ahead and share my screen real quick. We're doing a lot of talking right now, and it'd be helpful just to know how do we actually materialize the strategy. In order to materialize a real inbound strategy, what current clients are using is Findem's latest Copilot. And what Copilot does specifically is we're actually taking this idea of multi-channel sourcing like we're talking about through the inbound candidates, the referrals, the alumni, actually looking into our ATS. You'll see I'm connected to a greenhouse account here, and turning these ideas into strategies. So right off the bat, I have a few job descriptions that are currently open in our greenhouse. I can just quickly click on the job description that I'd like to see, and I just want my Copilot to go ahead and find me the candidates then that are a good fit for each of these roles or job descriptions. And I can actually have the actual Copilot start finding people for me. What I'd also recommend people to start doing then is that poll was actually sometimes not having data is sometimes louder than actually physically having the data. And I would highly recommend people to start looking into how much their ATS has grown, because the clients that we've been dealing with here, I mean, we stopped at 100%, but there's some people that are even seeing 2, 3x in their applicant tracking systems right now. And I almost feel like, and this is my own personal opinion, that we just have our own fiduciary duties of these companies, because this trend is not going to stop, right? Over the next 6 to 8 months, I'm sure we're just going to get more inbound on investing and looking into tools, regardless of Findem, that are actually helping our own teams navigate through all these inbound channels. So when I actually hit to start the Copilot here, we'll see that we're kicked in now to the account. And I just want to quickly find people that have actually applied to this role. You'll see that off the bat, I already have 132 candidates that have actually been interested enough to work for Findem as a director of sales, that they've gone to our website and inbound applied. I have 132 people. To Brett's point, we're also looking at additional channels too. So what we're looking for here is not just in the inbound alone, but then I also have 32 candidates that have applied in the past, or maybe to a different role, that they might be a good fit now. But for today, how we're actually looking through the inbound talent is I'm heading into the inbound applicants tab. And there's a few really large questions that people should be asking if you're in the market for an inbound strategy. One of the first areas is when it comes to compliance. So for AI compliance, you'll notice that all the job matching is being done by the users themselves in the job description. So Findem's taking that job description in our case here, and we're looking for what the user is actually looking for. And then we want the users to maybe come in here and say, okay, let me look for anyone that's not really a match for this criteria, and I'd like to move them along. And then when I actually reject these candidates, they're going to receive an email from my greenhouse, for example, right? So we're going to automate those people that aren't like a good fit right off the bat, or maybe as high of a fit as I'd like. Then maybe I'd want to go ahead and identify the top talent that's actually inbound applied, rather than Brett's pain that he shared about going through each of the candidates 132 at a time here. What we found sometimes, and this is own anecdotally, is we'll see people start clicking on profiles, and maybe they'll do the first 10 with a fine-tooth comb, maybe even 12. But by the time you get to 20, 30, 50, 70, then we're starting to see people kind of like bulk move. So you'll have the choice. You can either go one by one, you can bulk disposition people as well. But either way, to know that all of your responses in the tool here or actions are all dictated upon the user. So you'll see that here are a few of the skills and attributes that Findem pulled off the job description. And if I'd like to just see in real time, like I'm actually looking for sales leaders. So I'd like to go ahead and just find sales leaders that have physically scaled a company from 20 million to 50 million in revenue, for an example. And I'm going to go ahead and make this only show me those particular leaders. Make this a must-have. I'm going to close the window. You'll see in real time that the pool has now changed, right? Some of those people that were qualified are no longer qualified. Some of those people that were maybe not as much of a match are now bumped up a little bit higher. So quickly, in 2 clicks here, I've gone through 132 candidates, and I've identified the top 2 quality people that I'd like to go ahead and reach out to for there. So talk about, Brett, your use case. Imagine if you had something this powerful back when you were going one by one manually.
Yeah, I've never been a recruiter, so I don't have the experience of actually doing this. So I'm curious, what would a typical person performing these functions manually or going from system to system, like how much time would this typically take them?
Yeah, I would say, like, this is why I joined, right? It's fascinating to me because the frustration you feel having to go through one at a time. And then what you do is, after you get through 20 and you realize it took you 20 minutes, you go to the search bar in the ATS and you type a Boolean or something, and then you realize that's not really filtering who you want anyway. And then what you tend to do is you go to a different tool that your leader probably paid for, and you start searching for people because you can find them maybe faster, right? And what I found a lot of times is who you're finding anyway is already in your ATS. You just couldn't find them. So having technology to maximize the value of the ATS, but also for the recruiters and sourcers to not have to spend so much time. And then for the candidates, even the unqualified candidates, some of the biggest feedback you get on candidate experience scores is, I never hear back. Not only would this have helped our teams identify and get back to people, but get back to them quickly. Not, I applied 2 months ago and then I just get some general email, I forgot I applied. You can do it every day, right? And that, believe it or not, even unqualified if I'm unqualified, when you hear back faster, it creates a better experience. You know where you stand.
Mhm.
And kind of touching, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's actually a very fascinating concept just to double down on that poll question, because we're just seeing such a pullback on this external sourcing play right now. I mean, I'd just be curious to know, even over the last 6 months, how much the ATS has grown, how much in the next 6 months. But I mean, we have 1,000 candidates that are just sitting in cold outreach, right? I mean, we're seeing these numbers of the inbound applicants just flood through the roof now, just being able to quickly sort through. This reliance on external pulling back, and then more and more companies right now looking for these additional tools to actually be like, how do I sort through my inbound? How do I sort through my greenhouse, my levers, my work days? And actually update and enrich all those candidates, and then, like Brett's saying, increase the overall candidate experience. It's a bi-directional approach here.
Yeah, I say that's right, Matt. Some of the leaders I've talked to have seen adoption and usage and daily logins of their outbound tools go way down because they are getting much better quality inbound. So that's where they're spending their time. So, for me, it's like, how do we help them reduce that time, right? Do a fraction and get to the people they want quickly and move them forward in the process. Because the percentage of hires coming from inbound, we're hearing, is going up, across most of our companies. It won't remain that way forever, right? But then the second piece of this is, if your database doubles, right? How do you ensure that you have technology to continuously match those candidates that maybe applied 6 months ago to roll 6 months in advance, so that you're still getting your ROI from money you may have spent driving that traffic?
Yeah, and I think we're all cognizant of that candidate experience. So, and we touched on this a little bit, uh, you know, how how are we able to improve that candidate experience? And, what are the benefits of using this type of an approach versus the more traditional approaches?
So I would say, I'll give you a quick answer there, and then we have a question in the chat that we'd great to answer. So there's short and long term, right? The short term is getting back to people quickly, identifying quickly for the candidate and for the recruiter and for the leader, the confidence that, hey, I'm spending money, or we're doing things to drive organic traffic, and my team's able to maximize that and spend the least amount of time possible. So I would rather my team spend time creating a great experience for candidates than just going through them one at a time, their resumes. That's the short term. I think the longer term, and Matt, this goes to the question, is it's one thing to be able to do that short term, but a longer term benefit is being able to search your database. So the question Lauren has is, hey, I see you can do that one job at a time, which is great. You get 1,000 applicants, help me get through that in a fraction of a second. But can you search the entire database?
Yeah, I think that's a very insightful question. Absolutely. So you're able, as the user, and this is the whole value of Copilot here, right? Because unless you were already privy to this multi-channel mindset that you had to go into like, this is what the ATS tab is like. I have 132 candidates that are newly applied that I need to review. I have 6 people that are sitting in my greenhouse, and all these additional tabs all in one snapshot that we can go to. And not only will you go into the greenhouse, but then Findem will be updating and enriching all the profiles. So then if someone applied to a role maybe 9 months ago that wasn't a good fit, the system of Findem will go ahead and find, yes, they are still a good fit for a director of sales, and now they have these newly learned skills.
Yeah, and I wanted Matt to answer that first, Karen, for the audience, because the difference there is, it's a different message, right? So if I know somebody's recently applied to the job, my campaign and outreach should be a different message. Then you may have applied a year ago, but we've updated your profile in the database to match your current state. And our search technology for this that we're looking for found 6 people in our ATS that are a fit. That's a different message. Hi, you may have applied in the past for a different role. However, we see you now, and you could be a fit for. That's another way to drive a better candidate experience. Hey, I applied a year ago. I forgot about that company. Maybe, oh my gosh, they're reaching back out because they rediscovered me in their database, and they think I'm a great fit for a role now. So having that ability to, again, maximizing, for me as a leader, maximizing the value of any money I spend to drive traffic over the long term. So I'm less dependent I can be more reliant on my database and less dependent on having to spend more money on more tools in the future to overcome the fact that I can't rediscover the people in my database. And for my team, it's also, working in one platform versus multiple tools.
Right, and I think a couple core elements of Findem that we haven't quite pointed out, but are at work here. So what we've seen is really quick and hopefully perceived as easy to use. I think it is really just a few clicks of a button to really get to those candidates to start reviewing. But as you mentioned, what we're working, there are two fundamental things we should point out. One is the precision search. So we're able to find beyond just a job title and years of experience at something. We're really looking at multi-dimensions of every user, every applicant. So we're able to do that precision search. And then I think the other piece here is that 3D data, that constantly refreshing and updating. So when those people do apply, their profile is enriched. It's not just what's on their resume. It's not just what's on their resume at that point in time, so that you can truly find those people later. And like Laura said, how great a feeling is that when maybe you weren't right for the role 6 months or a year ago, or even 2 years ago, and now they're coming back to you and saying, you know what, we think you'd be perfect for this.
Yeah, one last use case. I know we're running short of time, but I like Laura's comment. So for the practitioners out there, this is something that just came to mind. I mean, think about if you're in G&A and high volume, sometimes 100 of the 500 are qualified. Then how do you really narrow down, who you're going to reach out to? You get your candidates, you start moving them forward, and you decide, hey, we're making it an offer, we're going to fill the rec. You could go back and have the remaining candidates scored and campaign to them with our campaigning tool, one to many. You don't send a message one at a time, and let them all know, hey, thank you so much for applying. You would be a great fit for this type of job at this company, right? However, you applied a little late. We were already down the pipeline process. We filled the role. We want to stay in touch with you. We hire this role 4 or 5 times a year, right? That's an amazing message to get as a candidate. And now you already have a number of hot leads for the next time that your managers open a similar role.
Absolutely. I see another question from Lauren. There was a tab for outbound sourcing. So Matt, do you want to share a little bit about where the outbound sourcing information comes from? I think it's beyond just LinkedIn, correct?
Yeah, Findem has roughly about 100,000 different websites that we track, to be honest. I would recommend just setting up a call or sending us a JD of who you're looking for so we can give you the relevant websites. LinkedIn is one of those websites, but we go much more beyond.
Yeah, and I know when if you're interested, we did a Find 'em Live with Icon a few months ago, and they talked about they have some very specialized needs for scientists and interesting combinations. And so there are particular documentation sites and publication sites that are really relevant to their job hunt. And normally they would have to cross reference those, but with Findem, they're able to do that just in a single search.
Yeah, I think that's an important question because there's a lot of people who aren't on LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of industries that we serve or any recruiters have to work in, like the nursing business or doctors or Department of Defense, and people with certain certifications, they hang around on different websites, right? They put their profiles in different places, and so to Matt's point, 100,000 public data sources we pull together to make sure we have reach into markets or into people's profiles well beyond just one platform.
Mm-hmm. Maybe in closing, and Karen or Brett, if you have anything else to add, it's just fascinating, right? I mean, here we are already coming up to the midway point of 2024 almost, and we have such an opportunity for impact, both internally at our organizations and to increase the candidate experience. There's so much data out there now, and through the power of AI and using AI how it was intended to be and responsibly, it's just very exciting to see how companies have been adapting to the market.
Yeah, I'll close this again. Say just thank you to everybody who joined today. I hope you found this exciting. I mean, I obviously do, or I wouldn't have joined here after a long career as a recruiter, sourcer, and recruiting leader. These are problems that I think I struggled with, my team struggled with, the companies I worked for struggled with. It's an industry issue, and I think it's the time is now here that we're finally able to start chipping away at the problem, not just for us selfishly as recruiters, but the candidates, right, who deserve better and deserve to hear back. So I think it's a two-sided problem that we're starting to solve here at Findem for our customers, which is exciting.
Absolutely. We do have one last poll. I'll have Austin pop that up just as I have share closing remarks. If this is interesting to you, we'd love to know if this is helpful and if you'd like to hear from someone on our team. So please feel free to fill out the poll and we'll be happy to set something up and reach out to you. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. I know there's so much competition for attention, right? I really appreciate the fact that you showed up today and were active in the chat and participated in this conversation. At Findem, we're super excited about the possibilities for the future, as Matt said, with AI, as Brett said, with the future of talent. So we really want to thank you for spending your time with us. Feel free to reach out to any of us on LinkedIn or through our website. We also have a new inbound page on our website to find out more about this strategy. And we can't wait to see you next month for our next Find 'em Live. And thank you, Brett. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Austin, who's helping us out behind the scenes.